All right, everyone. Nice seeing you all again. Thanks, Simeon. First, thank you to the bulk team. Really good job and great job on the patterns and the reuse. So I'm Pedro Bejeto from Crosslake. You've probably seen me. In the past PIs, we've been doing the reference architecture job, and the work streams before were about the performance and the scalability that led into the reference architecture and then into the vNext. So what I'm doing today is giving you all an update on how vNext is going. So we're going to start with what it is, why we need it, and how we got to that. Then we'll proceed to a progress update. There's actually a demo today. And then at the end, we'll close with timelines and a roadmap for the future. So what is vNext and what we need it? Why we need it? It's important to start by explaining the road to the vNext. And as Miguel was mentioning before, we did an exercise for the performance and the scalability of the system a couple of years ago. And at the end of that exercise, we concluded that to get to the next step of scalability for module loop, we had to do some changes in the way we are breaking the system into multiple different parts. It's not a fundamental change in terms of functionality, but it is a slight change in the approach. So we did some tests. We had a theory. We tested the theory. We benchmarked all of what we had, and we came to that conclusion. We could actually scale it with a slightly different way of breaking the different parts of the system as we have today. So at the end of that POC, that was the conclusion. It led to another exercise, which is the reference architecture. The point of the reference architecture was to create a set of documents that captured the essence of the product and provides guidance to any future vision, but also on the technical side or the tactical side of the decisions that we need to make for the current version. So essentially, what the reference architecture gives us is a view of what good looks like, what's the perfect architecture for a system, for our system. And with that tool, we can make two types of decisions. Any change that we make in the current version can either be a tactical change, we have to implement something, or it's a strategic change, which means we're probably going to look at it in the perspective of, can we put this, can we park this and move it to the next version of the system, the next iteration. So vNext is a great tool. It gives us that vision of what good looks like. It gives us that reference so that we can make better decisions. I realize I haven't done this in the previous sessions that we did. Delivering the reference architecture was actually a huge community achievement. It's probably an understatement. I know that the people that were involved in this, they are obviously aware of it, because we had 3 times a week, we had long sessions with pretty much, I think it was, I'm saying it's 6 months. I think it was something like 8 months or something like that. And on occasion, we had other sessions outside the defined scheduled sessions just to discuss some things. And the interesting thing was, we had a huge participant. Everyone was attending it. The DA members were mostly in there and actively participating in these sessions. So it's really important. And I think I've been failing at not realizing that this needs to be acknowledged. I'm not going to go through the names. Just look at this board and see how many people that you know from the community and how many different companies and partners and in the ecosystem and the community have participated with all of this. There's plenty of documentation that shows who worked on what, because we managed to distribute the multiple different parts of the system and the design of the reference architecture to the different people. So I want to thank everyone in here for that long and difficult process of creating the reference architecture, and because it's a valuable tool that we have today. So with that out of the way, what is vNext? vNext is exactly the implementation of the reference architecture. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we have that recipe of what good looks like. We know how to break the system in those multiple parts. We know how the patterns and the principles that we have designed. We know the use cases. Can we then proceed to the implementation? So this is exactly what we've been doing for the past 3 or 4 PIs. The key benefits for this, I'm just going to brush through those. I've been praising these for a long time, but They are infrastructure agnostic, which includes that databases, identity access management, cryptographic functions, even the messaging, it can be replaced. So much like Miguel was mentioning with the patterns and the dependency injection, we don't need a specific implementation of an infrastructure. We can replace it. Anything can be replaced. Even the core components can be replaced. And this is probably a bit puzzling. We have different parts of the system, like in accounts and balances, like the participants, like the quoting. We can replace those. And those are super important parts of module loop, but with the vNext architecture, we can actually replace them without breaking the system. And we can also provide multiple external APIs. This is another critical point, because with this logic that we have, what we have created as a reference architecture is what we call the canonical module loop way of doing things. So inside the switch, we have a module loop language that is not strictly specific to any of the outside of the external APIs. What this means is that we are now free to start using FSP IOP asynchronous. We can have another interface that is accessible from the outside with a synchronous FSP IOP, or we can have ISO 222. So this is opening the door to lots of different ways of integrating and connecting to module loop, because we can externalize the API. So the APIs are on the outside. They talk the language of the inside components, which is the canonical language, which means we can replace anything, including the external APIs. The ability to add functionality without changing code, this is a design objective. So this is a consequence of the way we are designing and structuring the code. It's not necessarily an architectural thing as the way we structure the components, but it's more on the code. It's the way we design the code, the way we write the code, that we need to be able to add functionality without changing. So this is one of the solid principles. A system needs to be open for change and open for extension and closed for change. This is going to obviously open, and this is kind of a dream. This is a desire, which is once we have this thing working, we will have the ability of anyone contributing plugins to module loop. Because you can replace anything, we can have a different way of doing settlements, which is a replacement. We can have different quoting mechanisms. We can have different notification mechanisms. And all of those, ideally, and this is the dream part, could be available in a page that would be the module loop marketplace, where we can put any community development and say, this is compatible, this can replace settlements, for example, and we have a new settlement model or a new accounts and balances mechanism or a participant onboarding. All of those, nothing is off limits. Obviously, we're going to keep the benefits that we have today. Those are untouchable, secured, performant, at scale, and cost effective. This is an important aspect. We want this system to be faster and cheaper. It's difficult to get that, but we're getting it. We need it to be resilient, testable, and easy to deploy and operate. Obviously, this is something that we hear everyone in the community. So this is one of the most important parts, easy to deploy and to operate. So why do we need vNext? Why don't we just iterate over what we have? It was considered, and we did have all of these conversations. It was one option. And then we finally, as a group, decided, well, actually the effort to slowly change what we have into the vision is too long. It's going to cost too much. It's going to have too many changes and too many compromises. So it would be possible, but it was more time consuming and less efficient than actually start in parallel as we're doing with the vNext. And when we are ready, then we can present it. So this is the why. How does it fit the pillars? That's a good point. It actually fits all of them. So I tried to find a nice sentence that said all of it at once. So there you go. So it's an evolution to continuous quality, delivering modularity at scale and easy to adopt. So we're going to tick all of the boxes. And again, this is not a dream. This is not a desire. These are guiding principles. We have to deliver this. Otherwise, we're not succeeding at what we're doing. So the next one is, how are we progressing with this update? So we have built most of the cross-cutting concerns. Again, this is language that we used in the reference architecture. Basically, what we did was we split the main use cases, the functionality, the business core of what the switch does, from supporting parts of the system. So those supporting parts of the system are authentication, logging, auditing. So all of those things that we need to have, and in a very solid and good manner, but are not necessarily what we do. It's not necessarily what makes Moduloop. So those are the cross-cutting concerns. And what we have is a almost alpha ready version of pretty much all of the cross-cutting concerns. So that's logging, auditing, platform configuration. So there's a configuration mechanism for the vNext that you can change parameters on the fly on the system without redeploying. There's authentication, authorization. All of those things connect to outside components. So we have built in everything that we are advertising. There's a built-in mechanism for all of these things, and that built-in mechanism can be connected to any outside provider. So there's a very simple pluggable way with dependency injection and adapters and abstractions so that we can connect to anything else. So we're not being limited. So what we're doing now is we're working on the big business features. So we did participant lifecycle, that's mostly done. We did accounts and balances, same, account lookup, and the FSP IOP API. That's the last one that we started in pair with the lookup. I don't know if you guys can see this. We actually have a placemat that has all of that, the whole thing. And if you look at the placemat, what you have is at the center in the bright yellow, you're seeing the bounded context that we are calling the business centric. So that those are the important aspects of Moduloop. On the sides, you have on the left and the right, you have some of the cross-cutting concerns. So you have the security, the platform configuration, reporting, auditing, technical management, all of those things. On the bottom, you have the access points. So you have the interfaces, you have third-party APIs, and you have the user interfaces. And in there, one important aspect is the FSP interop API, bounded context, that allows you to have as many external APIs as we want. So effectively, it's just a pluggable mechanism. If we build an API that sits on the outside and talks the internal canonical Moduloop language, it fits, it's going to work. So we can extend the system at will. So, by the way, the nice, you don't see the green faces, but there are some green faces which represent what we actually have working in alpha. Okay, so I'm gonna now stop sharing this and I'm going to do a demo against all advice. But that's how we roll. Yeah. I did the I did the demo gods dance and all of those things. So okay, sorry, bear with me, just changing this. Right. Is this readable? Yes, it is. Okay, so this is, don't mind the way it looks, don't mind the aesthetics or the functionality from the UI itself. We didn't spend a lot of time in this. This is just, we use it as we develop because we're lazy, we're developers. So we use this and we just cleaned it up so that we could show it. So don't mind the UI, that's not the product. Obviously, it should be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in, and I'm logging in to the security internals of the vNext because it provides login. And I'm going to show you what that means. It means that I have an account. My account has a role. I'm giving myself platform administrator, of course, and I have all of these privileges. And as you see the privileges, I'm not going to go too deep on this. You can talk to me after the session so that you can see how this works exactly. But essentially, the way we are doing our security is we're distributing everything, which means that security is performant and flexible. So each application knows their own privileges. They bootstrap the privileges that that code needs to the central system. The central system then creates this central view of what are the privileges, what do they represent to the system. Then an operator can compose roles, and they compose roles by associating privileges to the roles. So they will say the platform admin has this privilege and the other privilege, and this privilege is from the participants, the other privilege is from the transfers, the other privilege is from the FSP IOP. So this is how we compose roles. From this moment on, all of the systems, all of the different bounded contexts will get messages and notifications saying, I have new roles, I have new privileges, please update your view. So from then on, all of the components of the system can do proper authentication and proper authorization with a simple API call. So they receive a JWT token that has a cryptographic message. That cryptographic message includes the roles, which means that we now can know exactly which roles translate to which privileges, and we can do authorization natively in the business logic. So this is super critical. I'm not going to go much more deeper on this, but this is, we had to brag about it, right? So what is this? We have a hub, obviously, and it had to be now, right? That's how it works. So the hub is a special type of participant, of course. And what we have is that when we bootstrap the application, when we start the application, a hub account, a hub participant, a special type of participant is created. So this type of participant, because we have the system configured in the platform configuration to run with 3 currencies, automatically we get 3 accounts. And again, big caveat, don't worry too much about what we named the accounts and the types of the accounts and all of those things. This is all still very pre-alpha, and we're just trying to demo something that resembles a proper mechanism. So this is the hub that we can see. It's created automatically, and we have change log, everything is logged. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate how this works with participants. So for that, I'm going to create participants. I'm also obviously using the testing toolkit, which is the most excellent tool so that we can test this. So what we have is, we don't have a purple bank, but we have a green bank and a blue bank. So not very originally, but there we have it. So this blue bank is going to have this blue ID, and it's going to connect to the FSP IOP API that we have running internally. And we have exactly the same thing for the green bank. So they all connect to the same system. So let's put them in monitoring mode. And now I'm actually going to onboard participants. So I'm going to create the green participant. I'm going to be very original with the names. Green description. So I have one. I'm going to create the other one, just for the sake of being quick. I know that Simeon is going to be complaining because I'm taking too long. Sorry. Okay, so I created these 2 participants. Obviously, this is not half the story. So let's go to one participant. So the first thing you notice, this one is actually red. You don't see it in this screen, but this means that it's not approved. So let's create some endpoints for this. Let me create an endpoint. And the endpoint, obviously, we have different types of endpoints, but for now, it's just FSP IOP. And this endpoint is going to point to the toolkit. So this is localhost, and it's 4040. That's the green bank. Is it properly typed? Yes. So I'm adding this endpoint, and I'm going to add an account as well. So I'm going to create an account, which is a position account in euros. There I have, it's an account, all zeroed. So I'm now going to go back to the blue bank. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to add an endpoint, which is the other port. And I'm also going to create an account in euros, a position account. So, okay, so unfortunately, there's nothing more we can do on top of this, not in the demo, I mean, but we have make a checker embedded already in the domain code, which means that if I try to approve this, even though I actually have, I don't know why this is not being seen on the right. Is there a way I can move this? Okay, you can see that, right? You can see that box. So what it's saying is that there's a make a checker violation. The same user cannot approve because it's the user that was used to create this this participant. So this is to highlight the nature of the rollback and the make a checker. So I have to log out. I have to log in as another user that has the same roles. So if I go now to the green bank, I can actually approve it. So now this is approved. And you can see the full log of what happened at this participant. So I'm going to do the same thing to the blue bank. And there we are. So we are approved. So we now have 2 participants, and I'm now able to show you the other part that we have working, which is the account lookup. So to do account lookup, we need first to have oracles registered in the system. Again, the same logic applies. We have the ability to register whatever we want. Well, within limits, obviously. And another aspect that I didn't communicate is that what we're doing just with the authentication is we're providing things that are replaceable, but all of those replaceable things have a built-in implementation, even if that implementation is super simple. So we obviously have a built-in implementation for an Oracle, and I'm going to call it built-in MS-ISDN. I'm going to say this is for party type MS-SDN. Because it's the built-in, I don't need to put an endpoint. And obviously I can health check it. It's healthy. It's the internal one. And now I'm going to do some tests. So I have this nice screen that allows me to simulate everything. And this screen is actually sending requests to the FSP IOP API. So this is not pretending to go directly to the services. This is going to the outside. So this is going to the FSP IOP API, and that one is going to the account lookup. So I'm going to associate to the blue bank a phone number. I'm going to say it's 983. That's just as simple as possible. There's not a lot of validations here. So I'm going to associate it. So let's see if anything happened in the toolkit. No, this is, well, I don't know why this happened, but glitches of a live demo. So I have associated this number, this party to this participant. So that means that I can now pretend to be the green bank and say, okay, I'm interested in finding out who's a participant that has 93 as the account for the MS-ISDN. So because I am the green account, I should have an answer, and I do have an answer. So what happened here was there was a call to the outside, to the FSP IOP. The FSP IOP sent a message, that canonical message, to the inside of the switch. The account lookup picked up this message, understood it as it needed to do, went on to the Oracle Finder, which is kind of a register of oracles, and figured it out who's the MS-ISDN Oracle, went there and asked for who owns 93. Got back an answer, and this answer is another message that goes back to the FSP IOP API through an event, and that one is a call, then does the callback to the toolkit, so to the participants. So all of this is the actual flow. Now let's do something a bit harder. So let me just clean this up. Sorry for this. So I'm going to say I'm still green bank. I'm not interested in knowing who owns that account. I want to get the party information. So I want the details of this account. So I'm going to do the get party. And this is one of those requests that's going to happen, and it's going to go all over the place. So what happened was, as in the first test that we did, we got the real participant. So we know which participant owns that account. So we sent a message to that participant and we said, hey, we need that party information. So this is what happened exactly as expected. So the testing toolkit is just showing, I'm not going to the details. Well, I can, so that you don't think I'm pretending that this actually works. So I got back a request for the participant, for the party, sorry, and the response that I'm getting back is, it's Mr. Michael Gonzalez. So this is an example, doesn't matter. This is what the testing toolkit generates for us. So did it go to the green bank? Yes. So at the end of the process, because the green bank asked for this, we get back the response. So the green bank got back this request, which is effectively saying, don't mind the structure. We don't have the full maps, but so green bank got the answer that it was searching for. It has the party information. So this is the full flow of the get party. So what else do we have? Let me clear this. Because we are modular and we are bragging so much about being modular, we have to show how modular we are. And that means I'm going to register a remote Oracle. So this is an HTTP Oracle that's also running on my machine on a certain port, which actually I forgot the port. Oh no, nice. Okay, so this is the remote Oracle. I'm going to say it's IBAN, just so that I'm not going to use any sub-identifiers. So I have this Oracle. Let's test. It actually works. This one is actually doing an HTTP call to the health checkpoint of the Oracle, of the remote Oracle, because it's a remote one. So what can we do now? Let's do some more associations. Now we're going to say we're the blue bank. Let me just make sure this is clear. The blue bank owns a certain account. I'm going to say it's account 100. I'm going to associate it. So what I can do now is I can say I'm the green bank and I want to know who owns the IBAN 100. So because I'm the green bank, I should have an answer. There I am. So I have an answer from the Oracle. What happened now was we went to the internal data of the switch. The internal data of the switch has that Oracle finder that was created in real time. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it wasn't registered. So as you registered a new Oracle, it automatically created the adapter and connected to the adapter, to the remote adapter, so that we have a live connection. We don't have to redeploy. This is an important bit. So what happened now is that it went, let's see, this request, we don't see the request in here, but look, we got back the body. It's owned by green. So sorry, getting dry. So what we're showing here is you can have as many oracles as you want. The only thing that we need to do is if you're using an HTTP oracle that complies with this interface, which is the typical Oracle interface, you just add another one and you point it to that place. You do security. If you want to do something else and talk to a different protocol, that's fine. There's a file that you can just duplicate, create another one, put it in the code, and you have a new Oracle that you can connect to whatever you want. So the same principle applies. Okay, so now I'm going to show the rest of it because there's a bit more. So we have the participants, and I'm going to demonstrate funds in and funds out. So this is something that we completed recently, and obviously we have to show it. So this is the green bank, and again, I'm operator number 2. I'm going to deposit 100 euros in this. Oh, thank you. Right, that was really awesome. Thank you. So I'm going to request a deposit of funds into the green bank of 100 euros. That's it. It was created. Let's see if that made any change. There's 0 changes because it was not approved. So we need to still approve it. Let's try to approve it. So I have the request here. I have obviously all of the logs, and it's not approved. Let's try to approve. Oh, we cannot approve it because of make a checker policies. Again, the same problem. So let's log out. Let's log in as another user. Again, this user, for simplicity's sake, has all of the privileges that the other one has. It's just a different user. So that means that I can now go to the green participant and I can approve this. Okay, so it automatically refreshed our accounts. And you can see we're doing double entry account. So, and again, don't hang too much on the details. This is for demo's sake, but this is the principle. So we have a credit balance of 100, which we just deposited. Where did those 100 came from? Because we needed to come from somewhere. Obviously, it came from the hub. So we have a hub asset account, which was debited for 100. So all is balanced. We had a 100 debit in one side on the hub. Doesn't matter if it's a settlement account or it's a asset account, it doesn't matter. So we have 100 debit in the hub, and we have 100 credit in the position account. So what can we do now? I think I mentioned that we don't have transfers working, otherwise I would be showing those things, right? But what we do have is a nice test page that allows us, it's called tests, obviously. It allows us to do the simulation of a transfer. So it effectively is going to go to the accounts and balances system and say, please move from one account, debit from one account, credit to the other account. So there's no prepare, there's no fulfill, there's no module loop real transfers. That's an important statement, but it shows the rest of it. So what I'm going to do is, well, first I'm going to try something odd, which is I'm going to transfer from the blue bank to the green bank. That would exceed the credit limits because the account of the bank, the position account, is configured so that the debits cannot exceed the credits. So this is an important aspect of the configuration of the accounts. The accounts can be configured in both ways or none of them. So what we're going to do actually is we're going to do it properly. So the one who has funds is the green bank. So I'm going to transfer, I'm going to send 70 euros to the blue bank. It says it's done. Let's see what happens. So let's see the green bank. I'm going to refresh the accounts. Okay, so we had the original credit balance, which was 100, the deposit. And now we had 70 going out. Where did they go? I suspect they are in the blue credit balance. There we are. So this transfer sent from one side to the other, and we now have demonstrated the accounts. But there's more. What else can we do? So can the blue bank withdraw money? Because it now has a position, it now has money in the system. Let's see. So I'm going to withdraw 70. I don't need to actually have an external reference, but let's go. Let's try the same thing again. Oh, doesn't work. The same logic applies. I'm going to repeat this to eternity. So I have to log out. Sorry. I'm going to log in back again with the other one. I'm going to go to the blue bank. And so let's just refresh the accounts and balances. So we see, so we have 70 there. And we asked to withdraw 70. It actually succeeded. So now we have debited 70 from that position account. Where are those 70? You ask. They are in the hub. So now we have credited the hub account for 70. So can we do something else? Yeah, we can clean up the switch. Let's pretend this is a sort of a settlement. So I'm going to go to the green bank where I have 30 of balance. I'm going to withdraw 30. Again, if I try, I'm going to fail, but I keep showing it. So I'm going to log in with the other user. And I'm going to finally approve that funds movement. There we are. Our accounts are balanced. So let's see the other account. So this is the green one. This is the blue. All balanced. Let's look at the hub. All balanced. So this is the demo that I had for you. This is, don't shoot the messenger, don't shoot the team. There's a lot of stuff in here that's not precise and accurate. We know. We are working on the details, but we wanted to have something ready for you guys to show. None of this is mocked. We're not showing a lot, but everything that we're showing is real code, real testable code, tested code that actually runs. And it's running on my 7-year-old machine, all of it. So, and Zoom, which is a lot. Okay, so let me stop this and go back to my presentation. Share my entire desktop. Okay, so that was the demo. So there's a big caveat that is important, and this is pre-alpha. What we're doing is we're building the alpha version, which means it's not there. Well, our target, and we get to the roadmap, is to get a release, an alpha release. It's really important to stress that the alpha release is not for anyone to use except developers. The purpose of alpha release is that we have this foundation right, those interfaces, all of those different ways of working in the internals and the canonical messages internally, so that we can start adding more functionality on top of it and adding mature functionality on top of it. So this is super important. Alpha release is for developers when we release it. It's not there yet. So sorry, but you cannot use it yet. There's one more thing. A couple of weeks ago, this team was challenged. And because one of the things that we're bragging about is that the way we are designing vNext incorporates all of those nice principles that I've been showing in slides forever, like for 4 PIs already. It's not just talk. Actually, it works. So the way that we do the design so that we can replace components it works. A couple of weeks ago, we got a challenge that this should work with Tiger Beetle. All of the things that you've been seeing have been with Tiger Beetle. The integration lasted less than a day. So I'm going to repeat that. We had this working with our own internal accounts and balances mechanism. We were challenged. A day later, it was working with a Tiger Beetle. This is running Tiger Beetle in my machine. All of the accounts that you've seen are in Tiger Beetle. So we need to walk the walk, the talk, as they say. So challenge accepted and fulfilled. All right. So what is the timeline? So we started in Q4 21, very small team, reduced immediately after. We didn't have a lot of people. We were trying to build the foundation. The foundation is super hard to build. So there's a part where we have the design, we know what to do, but it's like breaking rock. It's super difficult to get that initial framework. And then we started gaining speed. And Q2 this year, we had the cross-cutting concerns, and there was already a demo of things working. Not very visible, not very interesting, but it was there. It wasn't just visible. And we had the accounts and balances, the internal one, the built-in one. Q3, we started the FSPI OP API. This is what I've been showing off now. So we have the participant onboarding. There's lots more on the participant onboarding. We recognize that it's being built. Then Q4, our plan is to finish account lookup, finish participants and account and balances, and start working in the transfers and the agreements. So this is the next block, big block. What happened is two things happened because we're speeding up a lot. We had new developers joining by the end of September. So we effectively doubled the team, which is the effect when we have a very small team. It's just one developer doubles the team. And so it's pretty awesome. And not just that, we had done the difficult bits. So the difficult bits were starting to fall in shape. So we don't refactor things so much. So at this point, we're now on a more steady. And another caveat that is super important, the alpha code that we're building, and even the cross-cutting concerns, all of those things are getting stable, but they are not yet stable. There's always a chance that those things will change. So there's always a chance that those things are going to break. They're not yet released. So if you want to take a look, please take a look. If you want to test them, test them. Don't use them in dependable code, because I'm not going to be very happy if you guys tell me that I broke something or we broke something. That's natural. That might happen still. So our objective is that we release this alpha, this release for developers, hopefully during Q2 next year. So this is the current estimate. Estimates, this is best effort, obviously. So I'm giving you the estimate based on what the team progress is and the speed of the team. So we have this speed now, we have this cadency, and we're not hitting a lot of roadblocks. So we expect to keep increasing momentum. There's a benefit as well, which is all of the work that Miguel and I did for the performance POC laid out a lot of the parts of the transfers. So that's a big benefit. What we're going to do is, while it's not just a lift and shift, because the split that we had is slightly different, because we were not splitting it in participants and accounts, but actually what we're doing now is what we designed in referencing architecture, again, so exactly the same thing. We're not changing anything. And the thing that came out of the performance POC, which was we need to further break it so that we can achieve even more performance, even more scalability and modularity. So what we expect is, despite the transfers being the big thing that the switch does, we think it's not going to be that hard, because we have a lot of previous work that Miguel and I did, and Roman, 2 years ago. So we're going to build on that. Obviously, we're reusing as much code as we can. So this is the team. I'm the lucky guy that's presenting here today, but there's a bigger team. Actually, now we have 5 on the team. Not all of us are full-time, but we have 5. So I want to thank these guys. They've been doing an amazing job. And I want to thank them extra for the way I pushed them for the last 2 weeks. And I recognize that I did that. So I'm going to give them a break this next week, because they worked really hard to get this to work. So yeah, that's it. So documentation, and thank you for your time.
Questions? Excellent work. I can only give time for 2 questions. Sam, any other? All right, Sam.
What's the API you are using for the bank-to-bank transfer?
So for the,
Bank-to-bank transfer.
there's no API. We're going directly to the accounts and balances and saying debit this account, credit the other account. It's not working. That's the part that I want you guys to be sure about this. I want to be transparent. That's the part that's pretend. I'm going directly to the accounts and balances saying transfer from this account to that account. There's no real transfer. So next convening, hopefully.
Any other question? Excellent.
Right.
Round of applause for.
Thank you again for the team.